George was at the plant, yeah. Booked up. Oh, God, yes. He's worn out. I don't know where Burger's at. I hadn't heard from Burger. Burger's in here. Kent's not here, is he?
Kent's name tag. Is Kent not coming in? Is Kent Grand Isle? I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Special Finance Committee, and we're going to be considering the budget. I'll ask you all to please rise. Council Member Cheryl Fontenot will lead us in an invocation, and we'll all recite the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Father, tonight we just give you the glory and the honor that you so richly deserve. We thank you for your many blessings that you bestowed upon our parish and upon our people. Tonight, Father, we deal with the finances of Ascension Parish for the year of 2007. We ask in advance that you would bless this parish in 2007. We thank you, Father, that you are the ultimate provider and that we're only the stewards. We ask you to help us to be good stewards. We ask you, as always, to protect our soldiers, both men and women, those that are abroad, those that are at home, all those who do service in this country to provide protection for the citizens that live here in the United States. We ask your blessings upon them. Father, we just ask your blessings on all those in this parish that are sick, that you would heal them. We ask all these things as always in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Roadhorse, if you would let the record show that Mr. Thompson, Mr. Scheck-Snyder, and Mr. Valentine are not here tonight. There are no chair's additions. As always, item number 4, the public comment period. We welcome the members of the public who are here tonight, and we're glad that you're with us. Let's see, that would be the two of you. So. But we really are glad you're here. Thank you. Thanks for being here. And if there are any comments that you want to make, we welcome them, and you're encouraged to do that. And Ms. Cinnamon Roadhorse, our secretary, has some sign-in cards, and you can sign in and speak on whatever agenda item you like. Since we only have one left, that'll make that kind of easy on you as well. So we'll move right into item number 5. That's the discussion of the 2007 budget. This was presented at the last Finance Committee meeting, and well, why don't I just begin by calling forth our Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Gwen LeBlanc. Gwen, would you just kind of come up to the lectern here? I know you're comfortable and got your stuff situated, but could you come to the lectern and just maybe present some highlights? And we see several members of the staff. Mr. Rue is here with DPW. We have the Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Don Heisel, is here. Ms. Martha Collins is here, and she can address grants or different some of the different endeavors that she is working on. Parish President Ronnie Hughes apologizes for not being here, but he had a previous engagement. He's at a neighborhood community meeting tonight, talking to the residents there, and so he sent ample representation to take his place. But we're going to be looking at that. This is the 2007 budget that we're going to be living with for an entire year. There was a brief presentation made at the Finance Committee meeting in October. But Gwen, are there some comments or information that you want to give us?
Well, I can just brief you real quick on where we stand with the 2007 budget. What we had reviewed in October at the finance meeting, that the stability in our revenues is maintained by our sales and use taxes and our ad valorem taxes. That represents 80% of our revenues budgeted for 2007. And the revenues actually remain basically the same as the increases realized in these ad valorem taxes and in the property taxes. They were adjusted in the 2006 amended budget. So that's what causes the revenues to be basically the same. And of course, ad valorem taxes increased due to reassessment by the assessor of the parish, and on the expenditure side, and of course, as always, I want to remind you that our budget has two components: the operating budget and the capital budget. So we budget accordingly like that. The operating budget expenditures remain basically the same as the 2006 amended, and then the capital budget is mostly funded by fund balance this year, because we, in the past when we sold bonds and all, the revenue was considered revenue when the bonds were delivered, and therefore it fell into the fund balance to be used in subsequent years for capital projects. So the operating budget for 2007 is $46.8 million with expenditures of $43.8 million. The capital budget is the revenues are $3.2 million in 07 revenues, plus the use of the fund balance of $22.4 million, with expenditures at $28.4. So our total budget, both operating and capital, is revenues of $72.5 million and expenditures of $72.3 million. The sales taxes and the revenue side on the operating budget, the sales taxes by themselves represents 55% of all the revenues in our operating budget. Property taxes represent 25%. And that together is the 80% of revenues. Other revenues are from intergovernmental licenses and permits, interest earned and miscellaneous, and then fines and forfeitures is a small portion. On the expenditure side of the operating budget, most of it is found in public works at $13.5 million, $10 million in general government, health and welfare, $8 million, public safety, $5 million, debt service. What we'll pay on our debt service in 07 is $4 million, and recreation and culture, $1 million. That's the majority of the $43.8 million in operating. Then when we switch over to our capital budget, like we just went over, the revenue is primarily funded by the fund balances in our capital project funds, and that was $22.4 million for a total of $25.7. So the majority of the funding provided in 07 for this rather aggressive capital budget is funded by the fund balances in those respective capital budget funds. The expenditures are road construction and East Ascension drainage make up the public works component, and that's $22.1 million. Public safety, which is basically the fire districts of our parish and our jail construction fund, $3.5 million. Health and welfare is $1.7 million, and intergovernmental expenditures $1 million. Total expenditures of the $28.4 million. If there's, I don't know where exactly your plans are to go from here, but that's a brief recap of where we are at this moment.
All right. Thank you, Gwen. Cinnamon, would you show, please, that Councilman George Valentine is present with us tonight? Why don't we start off? Does anybody have any questions or comments about the budget? And let's start from there, and maybe we can answer whatever concerns are there. Mr. Todd Lambert, he's chairman of Drainage.
Yeah, Ms. Gwen, we had moved several months back on matching the 25% match on the mitigation buyouts, and it's going to be probably $600,000 or $700,000. We get reimbursed for it, but we need to make sure it's in the budget for the drainage.
We picked up that motion.
I talked to Ms. Churro. She met with us at the meeting yesterday.
And see what we'll do. We're not going to change this booklet. What we'll do is call the public hearing, which you have done for November the 16th, and then thereafter we'll present any amendments or changes to the budget before adoption, and that's one of them, as well as the funding for the bicentennial.
Okay.
Would be another.
That's the only question I have right now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Savoy, I know you had several comments that you wanted to make.
Mr. Chairman, I was hoping some others had some questions that could possibly answer mine, but if not, then I will go ahead. There are some. I did review the budget, and unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Gwen LeBlanc privately to answer some of my, general questions. I am working to turn around, and I'm time is very hectic for me right now. But and I got a rough draft on some of the things. Unfortunately, I didn't summarize it, so I may be fumbling a little bit here. And Mr. Chairman, are we going to have an opportunity to discuss the budget at another meeting, like for instance the next finance meeting? What's the time frame here?
The public hearing for this is called, is it the 16th or the 17th?
Right.
November the 16th.
So we have a
So we
finance
do have another
Okay.
finance committee. Actually, what I was hoping that what we could accomplish with this meeting tonight is to make certain that everybody has a very good idea of what goes on in there. A number of us are still fairly new on the council, and Mr. Joseph, I'll forgive you if your eyes start glazing over, because mine did for about a year, or 2 years maybe before I could understand. It's very difficult to understand this, and it still is. Some of the things are pretty difficult. My hope for the meeting tonight was that we could kind of get an idea of what was in the budget, how much was allocated, where things were coming from, going to. Obviously, there are projects in here, and I shouldn't even bring it up, but I'm going to because it's a hot potato. Lamar Dixon's in here, different things like that. I know y'all are going to want to discuss that. I was hoping that everybody would not necessarily be comfortable with what's going on in there, but at least know what's in there, so that then you could raise appropriate questions at a later time. This is really more of a learning experience. I don't expect any of us to come up with any sort of a recommendation or any motions tonight, unless there's something absolutely in here that you don't want in here, or absolutely that you do want in here that's not there. So that's really, if you're looking for a scope of what's going to go on tonight, that's really where I envision this meeting to go to tonight, Mr. Savoy.
Okay. And I will start, Mr. Chairman. Some things that raises a flag with me, and I'll ask for answers from administration. And if they can't give it to me tonight, that's fine. They can give it to me as soon as they can.
The only thing I'm going to ask, if any of you have a question that you want to raise or anything like that, would you please reference the tab that you're referring to and the page that you're on, so that the rest of us can flip to it. Thanks.
In the 2006 amended budget, y'all may not have that. This is something.
That's up at the beginning of the book.
I think he's got that separate sheet that was.
There was also a separate sheet that was passed out at the last. Are you talking about these amendments, Mr. Savoy, that were passed out at?
Yes.
This was distributed to everyone at the last Finance Committee meeting when the budget itself was presented, and it just says 2006 amended budget, and there are just a few items on there with some explanations.
And I'm going to need some further help on where are we at with amending the 2006 budget. Did we call the public hearing? Did we have the public hearing?
That's all include. That's all the same animal, is it not?
Right,
We amend
It's all going to be the same.
We're going to amend the 2006 budget and adopt the 2007 budget at in the same stroke.
Right.
Okay. In the 2006 amended budget that's coming to us for action, probably in November or December.
November.
Just to recap some of what's being said on this right here is 2006 operating budget is projected to end in a better financial position than anticipated. That's important for us to know, because that tells us that we got some additional dollars coming in that we could possibly put on some projects. Okay. One thing to focus on is it also in here, the Lamar Dixon Fund provides the ability to exercise the option to purchase the Expo Center. Now, that is coming to you in the 2006 amended budget, which states what you're doing is you're voting to move forward with exercising the purchase of Lamar Dixon with this amendment, with the amendment. I think that's important for everybody to understand what you're voting on.
This may be semantics here, but what this is specifically saying here, and there may be some legalities to it, this just says it provides the ability to exercise the option. This puts into the budget that amount of money necessary to exercise the option to lease purchase Lamar Dixon Expo Center. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean you have to spend it, and just because it's a budgeted item doesn't mean that the authority is there to spend it without council approval. So what this is, it gives you the ability to exercise the lease purchase. It doesn't necessarily exercise. It's just putting the money there for it. And from what I understand, except for one environmental study, we're just one environmental study away from receiving the $250,000 allocation from Senator Vitter.
I would like an update on where we're at with that, because that was an issue and a concern I had and a question I was going to bring up as far as where we're at, because I mean we cannot use that money as of today.
As of today, no, sir, it's not here.
I might add, Jerry, that in our home rule charter, that an act requiring an ordinance is when the parish acquires real property on behalf of the parish. So, you know, like Martin said, before it's exercised, it would have to come back as an ordinance.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, let's go to the public notice of budget hearing. And it's also a handout that was given to us, okay? A couple of questions under capital project budget. You've got intergovernmental grants.
Cheryl, that's this.
On the capital project budget, you've got intergovernmental grants. 2006 amended budget is $265,000. Year 2007 budget is $2,290,000. I need an explanation on what grants are we talking about?
That's basically the STAG grant. It was budgeted to be expended in 2006 in accordance with a June 05 reallocation of funds in the STAG grant, and it was not spent, so therefore it's being carried over to the 2007 budget.
I guess what's throwing me off is why is it not showing that as of the 2006 amended budget? That's why I would have thought I would have.
It was in the 2006 budget. We're amending it down because we're not spending it, but we're rebudgeting it in 2007.
Okay. If you go down to the next expenditures, under Public Works, we're amending the 2006 budget to $11,942,000, and for the 2007 budget, we're budgeting $22,100,000. Explain that.
That's basically Public Works consists of the East Ascension Drainage Construction Fund and the Road Construction Fund. That's the amount of projects that were not completed, that were budgeted in 06 but were not completed, so we're carrying them over to 2007 in just those two construction funds.
Okay.
Yeah. And the supplemental information in the back of your budget book, you can see what ones are carried over. We broke down new projects versus the ones that are being carried over.
Okay.
That's that last blue tab.
Yeah, exactly.
In your big budget book. I have Amanda making some copies. If some of you don't have that, what Mr. Savoy was referencing, Ms. Barat's making some copies for us right now.
Now I'm going to go to the budget message that was handed out to us.
That one you got.
And I'll go to page 2. On the personnel, they've got in here salary increases of 5% allowed. Need a clarification on exactly what administration and the parish president looking at doing with this 5%, because we're having some employees come to us thinking that they're getting a 5% raise. Okay, exactly what is this 5% allowance?
Okay, HR told us to put 5% allowance to provide for any raises. As you know, the hourly people in DPW are on a step and grade increase, so theirs could be a little bit less or even more than 5%. So it's just an allowance for each fund that we just, after we figured out all the salaries, we just added 5%. Now, how much of a raise will that equate to? I don't know. Do you know, Ms. Heisel?
No, just an allowance in case there'll be, so there'll be some there for promotions later on, which was never in there.
How much additional? What is the 5%? How much did we put in the budget for that to account for that 5%?
she'll get it. I know.
Okay,
we have a
I don't
spreadsheet
need the
on it.
answer tonight.
Okay.
Just that's a question I had.
But I think the point of your question is when people see when employees are seeing a 5%, they're assuming it's a 5% across the board.
Right.
And which it could be, or it could be some would get more, some less. Although I doubt seriously, I don't know that anybody is in line for more than a 5% raise that I'm aware of. And again, just because it's in the budget does not mean it is going to be spent or needs to be spent. But it gives us that allowance and that flexibility to do so.
Well, I know HR department is working on reevaluating the pay scale, and can we anticipate them coming to us in 07 with the new pay scale? And that's why I was thinking maybe there was some correlation between the new pay scale coming and the 5%.
One thing I'm not sure of, Don, and maybe you can answer that, maybe Gwen, when do pay raises or salary adjustments become effective? Is this a January 1 sort of a thing, or are we, on the anniversary date of the employee when they're evaluated? When do we generally grant salary adjustments to employees?
They're in January. That they put in January. They're not on anniversary dates. Everybody gets whatever it is at one time.
So the beginning January 1. That's when it's
and it's basically not. It's basically a cost of living increase. There's no evaluation on them.
Okay.
All right. Also, it says in here that the juvenile center reduction in cost by approximately $200,000 for rehabilitated juveniles. Have we gotten a handle on how that reduction came to be? Was there any programs implemented that they were sending them through? Or
I did speak to the court administrator, Jessie LeBlanc, and she sent out a written letter, and I think I might have emailed it to you.
We received that recently. Apparently,
yeah.
We've been sending or trying to send juveniles there, and the beds are not available.
They have closed a couple of wings, or at least one, maybe two wings at that center, and they said, that they're not opening them again right now, so they're full, more than normal, and so our juveniles, or some of our juveniles, have not gotten in. They're using the ankle bracelets, the security ankle bracelets, and trying to put in the ones that commit the worst crimes.
Right. Okay.
So although we budgeted the same or a little bit more for 07, if they decide to open the wing, there's a potential that, it could go back up.
Yeah. The next thing that caught my attention is, coming from the general fund, we approved $150,000 to Tourist Center for the bicentennial celebration.
Yeah.
And I support that 100%. But if you remember, if you got the Lamar Dixon 2007 perspective events, you remember we got that at the last finance meeting. It showed some of the events that's already coming, that's already booked up. If you look at it, under the Ascension bicentennial, it shows that their estimated income is going to be $50,000. Now we want to look at this. I think we need to look at this very closely, because as a governing body, we're authorizing $150,000 to be spent on a birthday. Then on the birthday, we're looking at making $50,000. It kind of looks double dipping. If we can talk with SMG and Lamar Dixon to see, this should be zero. If it's a birthday and you want people to come, it's not there to make money. The birthday is not there to make money. So that really caught my attention, and that's something that
as well it should, and I appreciate your catching that. The exact motion read that we were authorizing the expenditure of up to $150,000 for all legally allowable expenses, because we met extensively with our finance department and with our legal counsel about what could and what could not be expended public funds. So again, just because it says it's $150,000, we're prepared to commit up to that amount as long as it's for legally allowable expenses. So that means that of that $150,000, none of it can go to Lamar Dixon. none of it will be payable to them.
And I understand that, but and I understand the difference. It's just that Lamar Dixon is looking at making some money off of the birthday, and we own it. We should break even. I believe Lamar Dixon needs to break even, but not make $50,000. That's just a red flag that was raised whenever I saw that.
Okay, thank you. Well, in fact, if our chief administrative officer, would you make a note of that, Don?
Yeah, and I will. And I don't know, Councilman say, well, if that's a profit for them, and I'll check into it. Maybe to meet their overhead for the event. So.
And that's what no, they're saying this is income, estimated income.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll check into it. I don't.
Yeah, I believe in breaking, at least breaking even.
Yeah.
Okay. It may be. All right.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, that's just one of those items that we need to clear up. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
On page 3 of the budget message, it's got 2007 budget provides for $3,096,000 in revenues from state and federal and state grant sources. Do we know anything about what we're going after as far as these grants right here?
Yes. If you look in supplemental information on page 11 of that.
That's the last blue tab in your big book.
This is a listing of the grants individually and by fund of what's in the 07 budget by revenue and by expenditure.
Wait a minute, Ms. Gwynn. I'm looking at my supplemental. It's blank.
No, it's in front of that tab, Jerry.
It's followed by another tab that says general. Look and go back and look at page 11.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It is behind that tab, but then after that, there's a white tab for general information, and then it's in there. I'm sorry.
Okay. Now what page, Ms. Gwynn?
11. And it lists the grant by fund and the revenue and expenditure for each.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that. Let's go back as far as page 4. We're going to budget again for 2007 for the state grass cutting, and they're going to $278,000. Bill, can you help us out as far as what do you think is actually costing us to cut the state roads the way we've done it in the last couple of years?
$369,000 more or less. We met with the auditors of DOTD yesterday. They're going to be finalizing their audit next week to see, in fact, that is the sum that we are spending. And after that, they're going to make a determination if they're going to raise their money to us for doing grass cutting. It's going to be up to them after that. But we should know something from them next week.
Okay. On page 6, this is something that I'd like to have a follow-up coming from mental health, I guess. The new drug court program became fully functional in 2003. Can we get an update on where this program's at and what's it done? What's the success story or failure, whatever?
Okay. We'll get with the mental health director and get you a recap of that, or update.
She's already on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting. If she has
That's
time.
too late. I mean, I'm not in a big hurry for it. I mean, she can get it.
But the parish president told me he wasn't sure whether he was going to have her make that report or not. So,
Okay. On page 8, on the note, this budget includes a state appropriation that will propose to be spent on the development of master plan for the undeveloped land at Lamar Dixon with the possibility of consolidation of some parish locations at this site. What does he mean by consolidation of some parish locations? Do we have an idea of what he's talking about?
I'll find out for you.
The state appropriation is the $65,000.
Yeah, I know that, but consolidation of some parish
Some,
locations
okay.
at this time, at this site. I'm sorry.
Okay. Check.
On page 9, which it falls under water wastewater fund, but it's on page 9, you've got revenues for 2007 are $1,509,000, of which $175,000 is anticipated from franchise fees. I take it that the remaining is coming from the STAG grant?
Revenues, no. Oh, yes, right. We're in the water wastewater fund, right.
Yeah, that's where the rest of it's coming. Okay.
And this is that June '05 motion right below it, where you redirected the proceeds.
Right, okay.
Project.
On page 9, it's got a paragraph, the second to last paragraph. In spite of glowing headlines of increased sales and property tax, our needs in the parish are far greater than our available resources to meet these needs, with the possible exception of major drainage. I got a question. I just put a question mark with the possible exception of major drainage.
I think, well, I can't speak for the president, but I think his intent was that it's perpetual funding that's coming in, so that eventually there should be enough money to meet the needs of major drainage. The half-cent sales tax funded.
That's all I've got there. And I do apologize for not being a little more organized here.
Mr. Savoy, you seem remarkably organized.
There's two issues that I was really wanting to hit on, and you hit on one of them, was Lamar Dixon. We need to have a serious dialogue on Lamar Dixon, from where we've been, where we come from, where we're at, and where we're going, from a fiscally sound posture. Because this is my draft work of Lamar Dixon, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try it tonight.
Thank you,
But
Mr. Savoy.
we do have to. We need to draw conclusion on where we're going, and sincere about Lamar Dixon. It appears that everybody is willing to put some money towards Lamar Dixon out of the budget. Whether you personally, individually, is comfortable with $300,000, $500,000, or $1 million. That's everybody's individual. But there's many questions left unanswered. One is, we're running out of time. As far as the 4-year lease purchase agreement, I'm not sure what year are we in now, Gwen? Year 2?
Well, 18 months will be
18
completed
months.
at the end of this year. First year was a half a year, July to December.
So far as getting help from the state level or the federal level, we know how long it takes. I mean, I think Senator Vitter announced, when did he announce that we was getting $250,000? I think
About a year ago.
14 months later, we finally got it. So that's how long it takes. Well, yeah. Is Lamar Dixon willing to extend the lease purchase agreement beyond 4 years? Because we still haven't seen revenues or sources to buy Lamar Dixon. how are we going to maintain Lamar Dixon and keep it at a respectable level. Another thing that we do have to look at, and I may have to send that to either Personnel Committee or Strategic Planning, is SMG. There's some problems there, or I'm sorry, bad choice of words. There's some things that I think we need to look at. SMG's been in the picture now for what, a year? I think we need to
18 months at the end of this year.
18 months, that's right, I'm sorry, 18 months. I think it's time for us to reevaluate their performance. Okay? I think there is some issues out there that we have to get on top of. Now, so that's all I'm going to have with Lamar Dixon tonight. All right. Another one, and my last one, Mr. Chairman. This has come up, and we've tried to push this across years ago, a couple of years ago, or last year, is an energy saving program. I'm going to throw it back on the table. I think it's past time for us to seriously look at a energy saving program. If you look at the budget message, it shows in the budget message that the utilities are up 33.5%. That tells me it is time for us to seriously look at some cost saving from utility standpoint. If I remember correctly, the proposal that came to us last year to implement cost saving programs in X amount of buildings that we own was in excess of $600,000. I'm not here asking for the whole thing, but I am asking the council to consider looking at a couple of our buildings and implement this program so that we can measure to see what the savings are, and look at and remember that it is guaranteed dollars. If we don't make the savings to pay for the loan, then the contractor will pay the bill. That's what's attractive to me, and that's what I keep bringing on, the 33.5% increase, and the fact that they're saying that they will pay if we don't make the savings that they're telling us to pay the note, then they will pay the note. So far as finding monies for that, I can show you where there's some monies that can be found in the overall budget to fund it. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to leave it like that, and hopefully I will be in a better position to a little fine-tune this thing.
Thank you, Mr. Savoy. To answer what you said about this energy savings program, we heard from representatives of the Siemens Corporation, and they were the ones coming forth with this proposal. And essentially what they were going to do, just to remind everybody, they were going to come into all of the different buildings that we designate, and they were going to change out all of these certain different light fixtures, air conditioning fixtures, ductwork, or so forth. They were even going to put time monitors and timers on all of the thermostats and everything in the building to make sure that lights were turned off when nobody was here, to make sure that temperatures were at the most optimal levels when the buildings were unoccupied and when they were occupied, and so forth. It was a significant amount of money which the Siemens Corporation, was fully prepared to finance for us, and we would pay back that financing to them on a monthly basis, and I want to say it was amortized over 10 years. My recollection is they were going to amortize it out over 10 years, and when you considered how much they estimated we'd be paying in utility fees, and then how much we'd be paying back for this financing, there was a level of savings. There was a great deal. There was some savings. I think $2,000 or $3,000 maybe a year, if I'm not mistaken. And the savings were so minuscule compared to the debt that we were going to be taking on. It was as I recall, it was the vote of this council that we would recognize the Siemens Corporation as an expert in that field, and if we ever chose to go forward with this program, then we would use the Siemens Corporation because we were comfortable in their expertise. But we chose not to proceed with the program at that time. Now, a 1/3% jump in utilities it might be the time we want to look at it. And I appreciate you bringing that back up again.
And to add to that, Mr. Chairman, it's a president's initiative. President Bush it's an initiative, Energy Star programs across the country, and industry is looking at energy saving star programs too as well. So it undoubtedly, that tells me it's a viable avenue that we definitely need to seriously look at. So anyway,
thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Yes, thank you, Chairman McConnell. Ms. Quinn, I'm looking at the budget for the jail, and
where are you, Mr. Valentine?
I'm on page 83.
Under which tab?
Tab Special Revenue.
Special Revenue tab. That's right after the first blue tab, and you're on page 8384.
8384. It appears we set aside capital outlay $105,000 for 207. If you turn the page, it appears that the capital outlay is the acquisition of vehicles and major repairs to buildings. Are we not setting aside, Don, some money for construction? Am I missing it? Where's that?
George, if you look under the capital projects,
Okay.
the tab in back of the second blue tab,
I
it says
gotcha.
capital budget, capital projects, and you can go in there and find the jail on page 4.
Okay.
And what we funded 407 for the revenue is coming from our 1 cent sales and use tax district in the amount of $1 million, but we left $100,000 in the 06 budget, amended budget,
Okay.
because we thought we might be incurring some expenses from the architects.
Right.
And then we put the $900,000
Okay, I just
on
missed it.
page
Thank
4
you.
for construction.
All right. My other question is dealing with lighting districts. It appears like lighting district number 1, does anybody know where those are? Is Ozzy back there? Does he know?
1 through all but 5 and 6, all the lighting districts with 5, 6, and then 8 is on the west
Donaldson
side of the river. 5 is basically involves the city of Sorrento and the outlying areas around it. And
5 does?
5. And 6 is basically tracks of Councilman Thompson's district.
Okay.
And Kent Shake Snyder has some of 6 also,
6.
since they reapportioned.
And so since 1 is in lighting district, the intergovernmental, evidently there's an intergovernmental state revenue, it says. Can you explain that?
State revenue sharing?
Right.
Yes. Any fund that participates in ad valorem tax collections participates in state revenue sharing.
Okay.
I've been told that the object of state revenue sharing when it was started was to replenish funds to the parishes that they lost due to homestead exemption. Now, maybe that was 100% when they started it, but right now, the last time we checked in the last year or two, it was only represented 65% of the homestead exemption loss.
Mr. Valentine is actually looking in the 2006 budget, but if you would look under the special revenue tab, which is after that first blue tab, and you can see the different lighting districts begin on page 51.
Actually, start on 49.
Yeah.
And on page 51, I mean, if you notice the taxes, that is the revenue that is the ad valorem taxes, the property taxes, and you can, when I said we had counted for the increases in 06 amended,
Right.
you can see what happened to 1. It went
Right.
from 23,000 to 138,000.
But I was looking at that, went up 33,001. Lighting district number 5 went up 330%.
Right. And I did call the assessor just to, verify that was the correct figures. And she said, yes, it was, and that we went through this lighting district procedure. I can give you a little bit of history on that, where we started with a question about lighting districts and we had enough in our fund balance to fund lighting district number 8, which is totally untrue. You cannot take those funds that are dedicated in that specific district and put them in another district. So then we said, well, we'll start looking at the lighting districts. And then, if you recall, the assessor came before you at a meeting and asked you not to take any action until she had completed her review. Now she's completed her review, so we've moved some lights from one district to another, or taken some out, somewhere in one district when they were supposed to be in another. So she's made all those adjustments.
Right.
The only other piece to that puzzle is we also are meeting with Energy for them to give us a map, a digital map of all the lights that they're charging to each respective lighting district. We met with them about 6 weeks ago, and they had completed all of the west side lighting districts. And they have the GSU side, which is 5 and 6 on the east side of the river, left to do. And once they complete that map, then we would get with the respective councilmen who have lighting districts in their districts, because the council in the past has voted to delegate the authority to install lights to each respective council member who represents those districts. So you've delegated your authority down to those respective council members. So once we finish with Energy and find out exactly how many lights we have and where they are, then we'll get with each member of the council that has a section of their political district in these lighting districts, and see if they're okay, if they agree that all these lights are where they should be, and where they have excessive fund balances, then they have the opportunity to say, well, I need more lights then if I have some more money. And then we can't change it now because we've already adopted our millages for 06. So this should be completed before you adopt your millages for 07. And then if they do not have any more service that they need to provide in the lighting districts, that all of a sudden their fund balance have grown tremendously because of the reassessment, then we'll ask the council to roll back the millages to an appropriate
And the
level.
reason why, and maybe it has to do with houses, I don't really know, but it just appears that lighting district number 1, not so much 1, but 5 and 6, the operating expenses and utilities went up tremendously. I guess 5 was 14,000 something. I have my other one here at 06, 05, and then it went up to 15,004. Then it went from 15,000 to 66,000 just for utilities, for expenses. But then in light district number 6, and I'm assuming that's the one. Are we paying Lamar Dixon lighting out?
No.
Well, why did it? I mean, it went from 170,000 in 04 to 100 in 05 to 255 in 06, and now we budgeted 468.
The reason for that is because if you exercise the option to purchase Lamar Dixon, at that point, then we can start paying for public lights on a public facility. It's not only roads, it's roads and public facilities.
Okay. So in other words, if we exercise it, so y'all
Right.
put money in here in case you didn't put it, it's revenue that's already here, right?
Right.
Because we have a large fund in that balance to start
But
off with.
if you don't exercise the option to purchase, then that will fall away.
So in other
from
words,
the
that lighting
expenses
district
will-
is going to pay for the utilities. That's what you're saying, Lamar Dixon.
It can.
Okay.
Just lighting.
Yeah, I understand.
Lights, yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Ms. Fontenot.
Well, I want to go back to the 5% that we were increasing because
You're talking about the salary
the
increases?
salary increase, and it's because if it's not, Mr. Heisel, I think, kind of indicated that it was cost of living, and then that we heard otherwise. And I just want to make sure that that I understand it clearly. That is it going to be a 5% cost of living above, for everybody? Is it just going to be a select few that's going to get a raise on that? I mean, this is very important to, to the workers who think that they're getting a raise.
We give a cost of living because we don't have a merit increase program in the parish, okay? So whatever increase is approved by the council will go to everyone that hasn't met the maximum of the range. Last year, we requested that we go ahead and pay the people that at their max a one check, so it doesn't go on their max, it doesn't change. So that's the intent. If whatever you approve for the increase will go across the board.
So we're not giving everybody a 5% increase. I mean, it's not everybody's not going to get a cost of living increase. You're saying that?
No.
Right.
Okay, the council approved last year, I think it was a 3% last year, went across the board to everyone. Those who were at the max of their range got a one-time check for 3%. So it didn't add on to their range. So everybody got it across the board.
Everybody less administrators.
Sir?
Everyone less directors and administrators.
That's correct.
And I guess my other question is that when we had the personnel meeting dealing with raises the last time, when it was brought to our attention that we had a lot of people that were maxed out and we had just previously did a new salary survey, we requested at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Valentine, we requested that by July of this year that we would have a new salary range so that we wouldn't be running up against the fact that some people didn't have enough money to in their range to get a raise, you know, according to our stuff. So I'm just wondering why we didn't get that new range in July as we requested. That's something you can check on and give us an answer later.
I think, and I don't want to take. I think that they've got human resources has this, but my understanding was they were going to present it. Were you in the meeting they were supposed to present it at the council meeting? I'll check on it.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be brought
Yeah,
to
Roy
the
was supposed to be
council, 'cause we
working
have
on it.
Yeah, I think they've got it. We'll check on it.
I also wanted to make sure that this council looks at the mental health budget. The mental health board is concerned that they will be paying $200,000 more, and it will reduce their fund balance. And I don't think they were really included in the budget process, and I'd like to see that administration really gets with them, and so that they can figure out what it is that they want before we meet at finance maybe next time, so we'll have a better handle on that.
I believe everybody is asked to. I think participation in the budget process is pretty much universal throughout parish government and all of the different boards and commissions and so forth. I know the tourist center always, the tourist commission always submits their budget. I know the library submits their budget, even though they're independent of the parish. We're the collecting agency, but pretty much all of the different departments, boards, and commissions do participate in the budget process, do they not?
It was sent to them.
And Mr. Heisel, you have some.
Yeah, I think I need to clarify something. I was just corrected. There are a few people who are in the STEP program at DPW that will receive more than 3 or 4%, whatever is approved. Their STEP program has that built in. And I don't know exactly how many. I don't think it's that many. It's a bill.
I don't.
No. But there are a few people that will.
That will get that. But in terms of the budget process, the mental health department and the health department and all of those, they did submit budget.
Absolutely.
The budgetary items to you or to the administration. Yeah. So they did participate in.
No, Mr. McConnell, they have not. They are questioning. They have a problem that they're $200,000 over, and they want that addressed. Okay, and so I'm asking that administration get with them and get that settled with the board before we vote on the budget. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fontenot. Does anybody else have anything? Mr. Savoy?
Yeah, and like I said, I marked up my budget, and I'm not going to go through every page by page, but this is one.
We've devoted tonight to discuss this budget, and if you want to flip back and forth and spend time talking about it, tonight is the night to do it. We have no other items on the agenda. Everybody seems comfortable in the audience and ready to stay for a while. Well,
all right, well, an explanation was given, and I'd like for it to be given again because I didn't grasp all of it. As far as fire, casualty, general liability insurance, and vehicle and equipment insurance went down tremendously this for 07.
By 600,000?
Yeah,
where you are?
and explanation was given, but can you?
Okay, we are partially self-insured, So what we did is we have an actuary that comes in and evaluates our program every year, and he will recommend to us what is the necessary amount that's required to keep in the reserved fund balance in that insurance funds for it could be incurred but not yet reported cases, things like that. You know, you have an actuary that just comes in. If you're going to set up a self-insurance program or a partial self-insurance program like we are, you have to set aside a certain amount of money. It is now funded. So what we were able to do is to reduce the cost to all the funds that had exposure to this insurance by a total of $600,000. So instead of now they might be at, I think the last was 45% of the market premium they're paid. Now we've reduced that again.
So we've satisfied the audit.
The actuary, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And it's been a very successful program for us.
Okay.
Ms. Fontenot, you had another item.
The only other item that I'm really interested in, and I haven't really spent the time to look in here about, and that's litter. And I would like to make sure that we have, you know, some good funds to exercise a good litter program this year. Since we are up in revenue and, you know, we have some extra cash right now. Now would be a good time to clean up our parish as our Economic Development Corporation seeks for new people to come to our parish. It would be inviting to have a clean neighborhood.
That's funded through our recreation fund on special revenue funds, page 47. And Amanda, could you say where it is in our recreation program, the litter program?
There's $20,000. Page 47.
It's the very last thing on page 47, recycling and litter expenses, $20,000.
That also include we include part of that in the state grass cutting program. Part of that funds coming in goes to litter control too, along the state highways prior to cutting and stuff like that.
Right.
So we do get a little bit from the state for that.
Yeah, the contract we have for the grass cutting in Road
Above this
Bridge.
20,000?
Yeah, in Road Bridge.
Yeah, in addition to.
The contract is also for litter pickup, not only grass cutting, but litter pickup on designated highways.
I see we didn't have anything for 06.
Oh, it was in health unit and they moved it to recreation, under recreation.
So I would find it in health.
Yeah, health unit is on page
Thank you, ma'am.
27.
Just a moment.
Well, actually, it's 29. 28,000 in the amended. On page 29, under special revenue, that's the health unit, and you can see the last about 5 rows up. Recycling litter expense, and it's amended to 28,000.
28. I have 20 in the one I have.
Miss Quinn. Miss Quinn. Right here.
No, that's not good.
I know I don't say
Strange
much,
voice.
but
You didn't recognize
what is the estimated percentage that we will get from the state? What is the roundabout dollar? 8,000, 10,000
For this road,
for
grass cutting?
litter?
oh, for west.
Recycling.
It's not figured in. What the contract says, they'll give us X amount of dollars per mile, and that includes at least three rotations of cutting and or spraying, and part of the contract we're required to go through there and pick up the litter prior to cutting. So it's not separated out. I don't know how the state figures it, but right now we have 3 people dedicated to just that for 8 months, and I guess you figure just on that point, it's probably $100,000 or more. I'll say $80,000 or so is out of that fund. It's directly spent on litter control for those 3 people.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Fonda, is that it?
Well, I just wanted to ask, since we're talking about litter, we did have a crew that was going up down the highways on like Monday. I think it was like on Monday once a week or whatever, to pick up the signs that were on the telephone poles, and they remained clean for a good while, but they're back. So I noticed that they are coming back, and it seems to be the same old signs. And
Ms.
so I was just
Fontenot,
wondering.
if we could, that's
That's
minutia.
right.
That's we're not going to deal with the individual things there. But
Well, I was just wondering if they.
as long as we know that there's money in the budget for that. So thank you, Mr. Hillensbeck. You had an item, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 31, we have the mosquito control budget
Under special
revenue, page 31. Page 31. Gwen, I see we're going from a amended budget of $193,000 to $232,800. Are we allowing for additional personnel?
In the personnel section,
Salary non-exempt.
right.
There's $29,000 that goes to salary not exempt. Yeah, and an increase.
An increase, okay. Because I bring this up, and I guess I'd like the administration maybe to go back and look at this. I think that this department is underfunded and understaffed. When you look at the fact that Ascension Parish leads the state in the number of West Nile cases, and you look at our situation here, how low we are, and we're surrounded by water on several sides, 3 sides at least, 4 sides counting the Mississippi River splitting us, and I really would like the administration to maybe go back and look at, because the conversation I've had with some of the members, I think we're understaffed. I think we need to bring on some additional people and additional equipment, and we need to bump this budget on up.
Well, the issue here is that we have a legal opinion that we cannot use ad valorem taxes for mosquito control.
Right.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm saying that wrong. We can use it for mosquito control. We can't use it because of the West Nile virus.
Right.
It's a safety hazard. We
Right.
can't use it for animal control.
Right. Well, it's really a concern that the public right now is very concerned about the mosquito control of the parish, and so I'd like the administration maybe come back with a recommendation, maybe an amendment to this budget, and let's look at whatever we need to do to increase it, to bring on both additional personnel and additional equipment.
And if you flip back to page 27.
27.
Yeah, in the health unit fund, the total, you can see right at the bottom, well, you can see our beginning fund balance for '07 was $875, and we're operating at a $285,000 deficit, the second to last figure. So it's reducing our fund balance to $590,000. So you can see that we can't operate, but it's out of cash, and we can only operate about another year without enhancing our revenues, or so they're in a budget crunch.
Right. Well, yeah. I think y'all
probably
need to come
one of
back
our
to the
only
council with
funds.
some recommendations on how we can address this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fontenot.
We are up in revenue this year. Can't we take some of the extra money and put at this time, especially, I'm saying right now at this time, while we have the money, to maybe get a handle on the mosquitoes, because they are outrageous out there, and because we do have people that are being sick and having problems. And I know that we need at least maybe get another couple of trucks and people out there moving. They come out there to my place as often as they possibly can, and we can't even step outside at certain times of the day.
Yeah.
You do have that option. You can transfer general fund items to almost anywhere you want them to go. I mean, this is health unit money, and that's a dedicated tax for health unit, and mosquito control is considered a health matter. But if that means we can't take it from health unit and spend it elsewhere, but we can certainly take
Money from general fund
money
Right.
and enhance this particular budget if we find that there is not enough. But Ms. Gwen is right. We've been eating away at that fund balance for years now.
That's why I'm bringing that up. If that is the problem, and
That's an option. I would think what we'd want to do is
It's
this council
important.
would want to look at that department or discuss this, as Mr. Hillensbeck said, and make some recommendations. And then when we figure out what kind of department we want, then figure out what kind of funding we need to handle that department, and then make those decisions as necessary.
The only two funds you have that are not dedicated, that can be used for any lawful purpose of government, is the general fund and our sales tax district number 1. So that's your options.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, very good topic to discuss. One thing that I think we need to do is maybe we get Mr. Kenny Matassa to come to us and educate us on mosquito control.
Well, you'd want Mr. David Matassa.
David, I'm sorry, David. I'm sorry. Educate us on some of the applications there are out there, what's effective and what's not effective. There's serious. We have to sit back and question ourselves as far as moving forward and letting the aerial spray come one time. If you talk to people in that business, one time spraying for the cost, you would have done better if you would put trucks on the road. So that's some things that came out after the fact. That's why I'd like to see administration get with the department and come tell us what would it take Ascension Parish to get a fully staffed department, and then what it costs. Now, can we afford that? No, we can't. But we would like to know what it would take. What equipment, what manpower would it take to efficiently handle mosquito control, to just give us a feel for what kind of monies we're looking for, and we'd have to be looking for, and then that tells us how much how much we can squeeze out of the general fund if we want to put into that. But that's what I think we
And
need.
of course,
That's what we need.
Yeah, and another option is to seek and hopefully get awarded some federal or state grants.
Yeah. Okay.
Always contract it out to Kim Spray. You don't have to really hire anybody. You contract it out.
Mr. Valentine also makes a valid point that there are companies out there that we can just contract with to let them do the.
That's right. They came and made a presentation, if you remember, to us, and they, in the time of crisis, like Mr. Hillensbeck saying, we got so much West Nile, we can get them contracted out quickly.
Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, Ms. Quinn, in the Homeland Security on page 14, I see personnel look like we're going to 100,000 in salary exempt funds.
What tab is that?
That's on the general fund. General fund, page 14.
General fund. That's the
white tab, second white tab
after the first blue tab.
And I see also in the non-exempt they have an increase, like an extra personnel, also in that particular department.
Right. Can you address that, Amanda?
What do you know?
The budget was 70. The amended budget was 70,000, and it's 100,000 now for salary exempt.
What they did on that, straightened out, they had people that were in Homeland Security that would be in charge to DPW, and they weren't where they were supposed to be. So they.
Well, how many people we have in Homeland as far as salary? I'm talking about exempt. It's just the director.
That's when it's two.
1, 2, 3,
two.
4. 4 people and a part-time employee. And of course, the director's position
How many
is
are
open.
exempt? How many are not exempt?
Yeah.
Should be 2 exempt. The rest should be non-exempt.
Okay.
Yeah. I would think the assistant and the director and his
Looking
assistant.
throughout the
would be
budget, I see
exempt.
quite a few funds that it look like we are increasing employees with the budget.
And there's a personnel listing in the very back, too. If you can look it up by department, by fund, by department. It'll tell you what the positions are.
All righty. Thank you.
Yeah, if you look, the very last few pages, starting on page 12, 2007 personnel listing. It will have that different information. It goes 12, 13. Gosh. All the way to the end of the book.
Right. Page 24.
Probably the last dozen or so pages of your book is the personnel listing, and you can get an idea of that. How many
Just
people?
tell you how many increased, though, unless you go back to the 05. Unless you have the other.
So you can make that comparison yourself. We have
Good.
a lot of time for that. Okay. This was a good meeting. A lot of good discussion. A lot of good ideas came out. Does anybody have any question? And let me tell you something. Like the teacher tells you in school, when it comes to this budget, no question is a dumb question. I had to go and crawl to Gwen my first year and say, what is a transfer in and a transfer out? Because I didn't know, and I don't know if I'm there yet. But
motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Byriga. We stand adjourned.
The budget, if you want to take